Hey, what is up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today with the WrestleMania 34 prediction video. What a way to kick this off. I can honestly tell you that here I am, sitting here where I make videos here in Sacramento, California. Over last night and this morning, I've seen all the pictures from my friends Victor, I've seen Ravi, I've seen Justin all showing up at WrestleMania. And I can honestly tell you that I'm a little bit jealous, but I honestly am glad that I'm sitting on my wallet right now. I know that there's a lot of fun stuff that's going to be going down in WrestleMania. When I saw Ravi take that selfie with Jeff Hardy, I was like, damn, that'd be pretty cool. WrestleMania 34 to me honestly doesn't look like the best WrestleMania of all time. I know that I'll have fun sitting on my couch watching the show on Sunday. The one thing that I've never really thrown out there is I had my first day of manager training at work yesterday. That was something that I would not be able to miss. It was one of the few days of the program where they said it was a mandatory date. So I wouldn't have even been able to leave to get to New Orleans until late last night or possibly even this morning. So it is what it is. It was the stuff that I was thinking about at the last minute when you were getting that WrestleMania feel of like, damn, it's coming. But I don't want to trash this show. I got a lot of friends that spent a lot of money in order to get there. And it's not like WrestleMania is, WrestleMania is what you call it. It's the WrestleMania trip. But there's a lot of shows that go on, and there's a lot of matches and a lot of moments that goes on that is also a big part of going to WrestleMania in each and every year. Whether if it's you're going to Ring of Honor, or you're going to Bloodsport, you're going to WrestleCon, Wrestle Super Show, or just you think about meeting wrestlers at Access and WrestleCon as well. I mean, those are moments that living in certain places in the world, you never get a chance unless you go to WrestleMania in each and every year. So they've already, sort of set this out. The WrestleMania Preshow is going to consist of 3 matches. You've got the 205 Live WWE Cruiserweight Championship Tournament Final. Cedric Alexander going up against Mustafa Ali. And you've also got both Battle Royals. The first ever women's Battle Royal match is going to be on the WrestleMania kickoff. To me, that's a little bit of a surprise. Seeing how they sort of put this out there as a monumental moment for the women in the WWE. I'm guessing that they think it's a cool thing that all of the women will be able to get the bonus for being on WrestleMania. They'll be able to get that payday. All of them get to work, even though they're having 3 big women's matches on the show. That being the Ronda Rousey tag match with her and Stephanie, featuring Kurt Angle and Triple H. You've also got both brands having championship matches with Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax. And then you've got Asuka versus Charlotte. So, I mean, as far as monumental matches that really mean something, definitely Asuka going up against Charlotte is a match that I think people are going to remember for a long time. Like the WrestleMania 32 3-way of Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch. The first ever Women's Battle Royal, they don't really have a lot of people that have been thrown into the ring for this match. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to either Sasha Banks, Bayley, or Becky Lynch. My official pick to win this is going to be Bayley. I guess my runner-up pick is going to be Becky Lynch from SmackDown. I think they're just going to pay off on that Sasha Bayley storyline that they've been doing, where more than likely they'll be having singles matches coming out of this at WrestleMania. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, they do have a list of names of people that are in there. If I was to look at the list of names, I guess my pick would have to be Dolph Ziggler, possibly the biggest name that is on there. I don't think he's the guy who's going to win it, let alone I don't think it's going to be anybody on it. I know at WrestleMania 32, they had somebody win it who was not on the main roster, and that was sort of looked at as their call-up, was Baron Corbin. I know that, each and every year there's probably going to be a lot of people sort of just predicting that because of the fact that it happened once, it must happen again. I think it's going to be somebody who's on the roster but might be returning from injury. Lots of talk about Big Cass returning to the main roster. I'm not sure if it'll be babyface or heel this time. I think Big Cass is a guy that I think people love to love. And that heel turn that he did on Enzo just did not work for me at all. Samoa Joe is somebody that could come back and win this and then be looked seriously as a competitor. Roman Reigns is going to need a challenger coming out of WrestleMania. So Samoa Joe getting the win is my pick to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But him having a moment just returning on Monday Night Raw, I think it's going to be something that's going to be pretty big as well. Cedric Alexander versus Mustafa Ali in the Cruiserweight Championship Tournament Final. Cedric Alexander is my guy, and I've always said this is because I ran into him on WrestleMania trips from WrestleMania 28 on. Basically, he is somebody that I saw wrestle at Ring of Honor. I saw him work, I guess you can call it security or maybe line control at Wrestle Reunion, and then I bought DVDs from him at the High Spots booth at WrestleMania 30. I remember talking to him at WrestleMania 31. He actually is the guy who took my picture of me and Tatanka. So, he's somebody that he's a great wrestler as well as just being the cool dude that I always found at WrestleMania to talk to about what was going on. And I forgot to mention, $5 wrestling referee, possibly the best thing that's on his thing. But I'm actually picking Mustafa Ali. I don't want to say that this is only because of the fact that Jinder Mahal got that run with the championship, but I know that WWE is going to be making that 50-man greatest Royal Rumble show, and that's going to be going on in Saudi Arabia. Possibly having him crowned as the champion would be something that they want to do on that show. From there, we'll go to Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax. I would not be surprised if Nia Jax... Okay, there's two ways I want to pick this. The first way is I think that Nia Jax is going to beat Alexa Bliss, and then Carmella is going to cash in on Nia Jax. If there is no Carmella cash-in, I think Alexa Bliss is going to beat Nia Jax. From there, we go to Sheamus and Cesaro going up against Braun Strowman. Lots of talk about who the special guy is going to be that is going to be Braun Strowman's track partner. It is not sort of looked at as a mystery partner that is just going to show up. It has always been touted out that this is a partner of Braun Strowman's choosing. So for the rumor out there that Rey Mysterio is going to come back, I don't know why Braun Strowman would choose Rey Mysterio as his partner. Besides for that, I'm surprised that there's not a lot of talk going on about what is, who's going to fill this spot. But I would not be surprised, even though the Mixed Match Challenge just came to an end, that maybe we saw that budding romance of Strowman and Bliss played out one more time and then brought to Monday Night Raw. Actually have Alexa Bliss tag with Braun Strowman. It's not like she's going to have to do a lot of the work. And then you got to wonder, is the tag team title going to just be sort of floated around with Alexa Bliss? And then how do you get the titles off of a man and woman's team? Definitely TNA did this with the whole Eric Young and ODB storyline, and they ended up never losing the titles because of the strict rules on, not being able to hit women and stuff like that. So they never found a way to get out of that. But then again, it's not even really said that the tag titles are on the line in this. So maybe Sheamus and Cesaro lose the match, but they still show up on Monday. And and they're the tag champs coming out of WrestleMania. From there, we go to the United States four-way. This is going to be Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, Jinder Mahal, and Rusev. I'm really rooting for Rusev to get the win here. Lots of stories coming out this week. Basically, Rusev asking for his release, not thinking that WWE was pushing him the right way. I think that that would be a mistake. Definitely with the way that WWE pushes him and Lana. I don't know if he thought he was just going to basically show up in New Japan or just work indies a lot like Ryback. I think that basically Rusev's career could go on doing indies, but I think it would be the detriment of Lana if they were to leave WWE. I think that she's a hot girl, but I don't think that she would be able to reach the stardom that she is at right now, just going out there and doing the indies. Definitely Emma is riding high right now, but Emma's actually able to wrestle, and Lana's not. So I'm picking Rusev to win the United States Championship at WrestleMania. From there, we go to the Intercontinental three-way. This is The Miz, Rollins, and Balor. I'm picking, I think it'd be cool to see Finn win the belt, but I think I'm going to pick Rollins to get the win here. Take Rollins and Intercontinental 1. SmackDown tag titles, you've got the 3-way, the Usos, the New Day, and the Bludgeon Brothers. I think you have to pick the Bludgeon Brothers in this match because of the fact that they're new and they're fresh, and they added them there. If they wanted to have a really good match at WrestleMania, I think they just would have made it the New Day versus the Usos. We'll go to the SmackDown Women's, Flair versus Asuka. I'm picking Asuka to get the win here. And then she will possibly be taking the SmackDown's Women's Championship to Raw. And then I'm hoping that Carmella, with a cash-in on Nia Jax, is going to be taking that belt over to SmackDown. And then I don't know what they do with the names after that. So maybe they'll just trade. You take the red one, I'll take the blue one. It makes more sense. Daniel Bryan wrestling in his in-ring return with Shane McMahon against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I don't think that this is going to be a huge screw job, but I think they've painted themselves into a corner, basically saying that if Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn win this match, they get their jobs back. So something has to happen. It looks like Shane and Daniel Bryan are on the same page, so I don't think it's going to be them fighting each other, but maybe possibly actually joining up with the group. I know that Owens and Zayn are real-life best friends. I don't know who to add into that. That's not going to take off that dimension of that team, but I don't see how Daniel Bryan loses his in-ring return at the same way. From there, we go to Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. They're going to beat Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. That's the only way that that's going to play out. We'll go to AJ Styles versus Nakamura. I think that Nakamura is going to beat AJ, and then possibly AJ, moves over from SmackDown to Monday Night Raw. I hope that that really would pan out for him, but I can easily see him being a better performer when he's on SmackDown than when he is on Raw. But when he was on Raw for a while, doing that whole storyline with him and Cena, the club, he was good then. But I'm just hoping that the Raw writers don't forget how good he is. Edge was one hell of a guy when he was on SmackDown, and then the time that Edge was on Raw was almost like he was forgotten about on the roster. From there we go to that main event. It's going to be Lesnar and Reigns. Too much talk is out there about Lesnar leaving the company, plus it's just common sense that Roman is going to win this. I made a video on this match a year ago, that Roman was going to beat Brock in the main event. And then Cena versus Undertaker is not 100% official yet. I don't know how they're going to make this match happen. I think it might end up just being a segment of the show, a lot like when The Rock was the guest host of WrestleMania 32, and that ended up him having that match against Rowan, and then Cena coming down with the Wyatts and all that other jazz, and everybody beat each other up, and then The Rock and Cena had a party and hugged inside of the ring. Hopefully, Cena versus Taker is going to be a real match that is going to take some time. I don't think we're going to see the American Badass. I can't think of a way in my mind that he does make his way down to the ring, but it just could be Cena calling him out, and because it's WrestleMania and there's WrestleMania magic in the air, that Undertaker comes out and they have this big match they've been waiting for. So that's my thoughts on WrestleMania. Let me know about what you think about who's winning and who's losing, and video responses all around. This will be connected to the full show preview, so hopefully you'll watch the rest of the videos that come up after this one, where we go a little bit more in depth into all the matches. This year at WrestleMania, we are going to be seeing the first ever women's battle royal to crown the WrestleMania champion. This is sort of the answer to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal that WWE has been doing ever since WrestleMania 30. They came out with their own trophy. They actually tried to name this match after the Fabulous Moolah, but had to have that stripped after sponsors of WWE, most people are pointing the fingers at Snickers, asked WWE to take Fabulous Moolah off after sort of the cloud of history came out of the closet for Fabulous Moolah. I honestly always liked making videos for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, because it seems like each and every week people declare to be into there, and you can make a video and sort of say, this person has a shot, this person doesn't have a shot, this is this is that. this year for this first ever Women's Battle Royal, there's only 13 people that are declared that are going to be in there. I know that they're going to be adding more than likely people from NXT. You know, Miss Baszler could show up. You know, Ember Moon, she was a part of the first ever Royal Rumble. Plus you've got, I believe her name is Carrie Sane, something close to that, who's over at NXT. She was in the Royal Rumble as well. The winner of the first ever Mae Young Classic. So there's people that are out there that might even have people under contract during that whole WWE wants to make that new UK show sort of deal to bring in for this. But as of right now, you've only got Sasha Banks, Natalya, Lana, Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan, Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, Naomi, Bayley, Mickie James, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, and Carmella. So basically, this is basically almost all filled up by Sasha, Bayley, Absolution, and the Riot Squad is basically the whole deal. When I first thought about this, I thought it would be pretty cool if somebody like Becky Lynch got the win. I think that Becky Lynch is somebody that, you know, has held the championship in WWE on the SmackDown brand. It's been a long time since she was champion, and it's almost like she is sort of the forgotten member of the Divas Revolution. So she's somebody that I'm always rooting for, and I thought it'd be cool if she was able to pull the win. But if you've been watching Monday Night Raw, the biggest storyline that is going down is possibly Sasha Banks versus Bayley, where, you know, I believe one can throw the other one out of the Royal Rumble. We had Sasha Banks push Bayley off the top of the ledge at the Elimination Chamber. Now these two are fighting in the back room at Monday Night Raw. This seems to be the biggest storyline that is supporting this match, that is going to lead to Sasha Banks versus Bayley coming out of WrestleMania, more than likely on the first pay-per-view for them. I want to see where this story goes, and I wouldn't be surprised if you basically see Bayley and Sasha Banks brawling in this match, and maybe they just both fall over the top rope at the same time, eliminating each other. But I think that they're going to go with Bayley actually getting the revenge on Sasha, and Bayley actually eliminating her. So I think an easy favorite for this match is going to be Bayley getting the win here, but I'm still rooting for Becky Lynch in the back of my mind. It's not that hard to easily look at the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal to see that this year, this match has taken a huge knock. In the past few years, I've always sort of thought that the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was a real thing, that being that, you know, somebody would win this match, and although it was not a real championship in WWE, that it would be the start of something. And, you know, from the past year's winners being Cesaro, Baron Corbin, and Mojo Rawley, not including the Big Show, that nothing ever really happens with these guys. And within a few months, it's not even really mentioned that they're past guys until they're trying to hype up the next year's Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And then all of a sudden, everybody's touting out the fact that they won one of these in the past. This year, I believe there's only 13 competitors on the roster that have thrown their name in the hat. That being Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, Mojo Rawley, Tyler Breeze, Fandango, Ty Dillinger, Dash Wilder, Scott Dawson, Woken Matt Hardy, Goldust, Heath Slater, Rhino, Zack Ryder, and Primo Cologne. From looking at this, the only person in this list that has had anything remotely of a big year for WWE would be Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler is a guy that basically won the United States Championship, and then honestly came out on SmackDown, put the title down, and walked out of WWE saying that he wanted to be taken more serious, and he wanted to be wrestling in main events on SmackDown for the SmackDown World Heavyweight Championship. Since then, Dolph has been in a few big matches on SmackDown, but I don't think that he thought he was coming back to wrestle in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. It was sort of a storyline that is always drawn up each and every year We see people making videos. We see, stories on dirt sheets. Is Dolph Ziggler leaving WWE? Is he going to go and try to perform stand-up comedy? Is he going to just leave wrestling behind because he never was able to achieve what he's done? It's hard to believe, but Dolph Ziggler has been doing this in WWE for a long damn time. I believe he debuted in WWE in 2008, maybe 2009. I remember him having that match against Batista on Monday Night Raw. And I honestly saw him kick Batista from the floor while Batista was in the ring and thought it was one of those coolest moves I've ever seen. He always does stuff to sort of transform his game and things, but it never really works out for him. More than likely, I think that we're going to see somebody from NXT and or somebody who is not on the main roster. As of right now, there's lots of rumors of Samoa Joe returning in this match. There's rumors of Big Cass returning in this match. Samoa Joe is somebody that I could take serious if they were to win this thing, because that's a bad motherfucker. And although maybe his push would only last a month or two, Roman Reigns is going to be needing somebody to stand up and be a defender, or not a defender, but a challenger for the championship. So them actually making this serious, Samoa Joe getting the win, and then possibly the first pay-per-view for the Monday Night Raw headlined by Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns, I think that would be a big deal from here. So as of right now, Samoa Joe's my pick to win this. But I mean, honestly, I didn't even know Primo Colon was on the roster. The last I heard, he was in a member of the Shooting Stars, but they weren't even really going anywhere. I remember when they bounced from Raw to SmackDown during the Superstar Shakeup, and nothing really happened for them when they got to SmackDown. But lots of tag team guys in this. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It seems like this is the one year that they've just thrown the towel in and said, we can't push anything for this match. Everybody knows the joke. It's got pre-show written all over it, and that's where it's going to be at WrestleMania. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Steve Breach coming to you here today. This is more than likely going to be the 205 Live pre-show match that is going to be going to WrestleMania 34 this year. But after hosting the Cruiserweight Championship tournament over on 205 Live, we have our winners who are going to be competing at WrestleMania for that Cruiserweight Championship. Cedric Alexander going up against Mustafa Ali. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Enzo Amore, but of course this title was stripped from Enzo after the charges were sort of filed about him. I know that Enzo has always said that he's been innocent, and there's still fans out there proclaiming his innocence. All I can really say is that this is taking longer to pan out to prove his innocence than I really thought it was going to take. I thought that when, basically fans were coming out with their evidence about the case, that this is going to be something a lot like the lines of when Emma was released the first time from WWE, where, released today and rehired tomorrow. But as of right now, I really heard nothing about this case over the last few weeks, whether if it's just WWE thinking that Enzo does need some time away, maybe coming back with a lot less heat and maybe a little bit more humility, I guess might be the word, where he carries himself in the locker room. Cedric Alexander against Mustafa Ali is a good pick to go out for the title. I can tell you that I've not seen a lot of Mustafa Ali. I had picked him in the 205 Live tournament. I got every match right except for the Western Conference Finals, I guess you can say. I really thought that Drew Gulak was going to be the guy who beat Mustafa Ali. Cedric Alexander is somebody that I've rooted for mainly because I had went to Ring of Honor when we went to WrestleMania 28, and then when we headed over to WrestleCon, ran into Cedric Alexander working the event as security for high spots, and it was like, dude, I just saw you wrestle for Ring of Honor the night before, and thought that it was pretty cool. Of course, from there I would see him in $5 Wrestling and doing a lot of other things, selling some DVDs at a high spots booth at WrestleCon over the next few years, and always made my way over, said hi, said I was following his work, and getting a picture with a guy, and just how cool is this that this guy is going to be wrestling at WrestleMania this year. I want to pick Cedric Alexander to win this, but something about me thinks that I think WWE is going to be wanting Mustafa Ali as their 205 Live champion when they go over and wrestle on that Saudi Arabia trip at the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. I'm hoping that that's going to be a WWE Network special. The only thing that I think is working against it is that they're using the name Greatest Royal Rumble of All Time, and the Royal Rumble is already a WWE pay-per-view. Why they would be using a Royal Rumble match on basically a house show, I have no clue. But they did Starrcade last year, and Starrcade wasn't even able to be a WWE Network special when they had a really, really great list of matches on that show. So it just ended up being a house show coming to you from North Carolina. So I'm picking Mustafa Ali in this one, but I think that honestly, if you tune in on the network and then watch this live pre-show, I think you'll be surprised. These guys really got some stuff going for them. Triple H, after being in control of 205 Live, is basically, rebuffed that show and got it going in a new direction. So we'll have to see where we go from here. All right, when we look at the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania, we're going to be having Alexa Bliss go up against Nia Jax. To me, this match really came together. You saw Nia sort of eyeing the championship for a long time. They played off Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss being best friends because of their friendship in real life, as well as on Total Divas, where they both debuted this year. And sort of have kept Nia Jax, they've kept her hot, where she's been beating up a lot of people, but they really haven't put her in special big matches where she's been able to be beat. You can sort of see that in NXT, when Nia Jax lost, I believe when she lost to Bayley on the NXT TakeOver London special, that is when Nia Jax sort of lost stock. Then she sort of became the backup to Eva Marie and things like that. This was a match that I was honestly hoping that was going to happen for Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax at WrestleMania. I think this is the best case scenario for them. With Asuka winning the Royal Rumble and Alexa Bliss looking like she had a straight run with the title to WrestleMania, I was sort of thinking it looks like Asuka is going to pick Alexa Bliss in a match that doesn't make as much sense as getting to see Asuka versus Charlotte, two of the best competitors in the women's division in WWE. To me, I don't really think that there's much to this match. Giving Alexa Bliss the win sort of solidifies her as being a really good champion. She was a champion heading into WrestleMania last year when she lost to Naomi in that, I believe, 6-pack challenge for SmackDown. Nia, it would be fun to see her win the belts at WrestleMania. I think that Nia is going to be the champion. But I think that also you have to sort of draw where they're going after this. And Nia being the champion on Monday Night Raw, you sort of look at their roster and wonder who's out there who can really beat her, unless Asuka loses her shot at the championship over on SmackDown. Then Asuka would be the one to come back. I don't want to draw comparisons to Nia Jax and to Kong over in TNA, but when Kong was holding the Knockouts Championship years ago, they had a lot of good, really good wrestlers. They had, my mind just completely went blank. Madison Rayne, I can't remember the girl's name. I was going to say Gail Kim beat her, but it wasn't Gail Kim the first one to beat Kong. It was another girl that was a little blonde girl, and she was like here today, gone tomorrow. She looked like she had a lot of promise, then she just disappeared. But I don't see people like Bayley, like Alexa Bliss. I don't see Sasha Banks. I don't see these girls being able to, in your mind, this is a girl that's going to beat Nia Jax at WrestleMania. So I'm thinking that Nia is going to have her day where she does win the championship, but I think at WrestleMania it's going to be Alexa Bliss being able to say that she's beaten everybody in WWE and where's her new competitor to go after the championship. And then you have the Raw shakeup. You bring some video over from SmackDown. You get some fresh matchups for her. This is a weird one because of the fact that the time this match was drawn up was that they were going to have a matchup on Monday Night Raw to see who the #1 competitors to go after the Bar. Sheamus and Cesaro's championship at WrestleMania 34. And out of the blue comes Braun Strowman, who basically says that he doesn't have a road to WrestleMania, a lot like John Cena. And he comes in, and he just starts whooping on everybody. To the point where Braun Strowman comes out the victor. And as Monday Night Raw fades to black, we are wondering, what are we going to do at WrestleMania? Braun Strowman, 1 against 2. Obviously, Cesaro and Sheamus, 2 really good competitors in the WWE. Can these guys be able to compete against Braun Strowman, or is Braun Strowman going to be too much where he's able to overcome him? Braun Strowman just won, I believe there was 4 teams in that match on Monday Night Raw, so he was able to beat 8 guys. Why wouldn't he be able to beat 2? Kurt Angle was able to straighten this all out on Monday Night Raw, where basically he said that Braun Strowman is going to be able to get his title shot against the Bar at WrestleMania. He is the #1 contender. But Angle is not going to be able to let Strowman come in to WrestleMania and wrestle 2-on-1. He is going to have to find a tag partner. As of right now, I haven't heard any rumors who this is going to be, whether if it's going to be a returning legend, if it's going to be an NXT superstar, if it's just going to be somebody on the Monday Night Raw brand who does not have a match. Is he going to bring out Mark Henry, a Hall of Famer? Is he going to bring out somebody like Big Show? Somebody that, he's had a history with, but is able to team together. Just about the only person that I've heard that they can think to be in this slot would be the Drifter, who would be Elias. That'd be kind of weird for me because they built up Elias as a heel. Him teaming with Braun Strowman would be sort of a mixed bag, a lot like Sheamus and Cesaro, how they came together. We've seen these guys beating the hell out of each other for the past few weeks, and I think the last time that we saw Elias is when Braun Strowman dropped the piano on this dude to win a match on Monday Night Raw. Your mind goes wild. I mean, you could bring back, just Braun Strowman is so sure that he's going to win this match that he brings out one of the WrestleMania legends that either works backstage as a producer, like the $1 Million Man or like IRS, that he's so sure, then he helps somebody get a WrestleMania moment that never got one, or maybe somebody comes up from NXT that we've never seen before. My mind keeps on drawing to, you don't want to break up a team, but like bringing up a guy sort of like with his shape and size, sort of like a guy from Sanity, or maybe one of the guys from Heavy Machinery. I don't think that's the way those guys are going to debut, but your mind's going to be going crazy. I mean, that's why we like it when they named a mystery tag team partner, and just hope that they're able to pull something out of the bag. As of right now, I mean, you got to be thinking Strowman's going to win the titles, unless he just goes out there with somebody like Alexa Bliss, his Nick's tag team partner, from that Facebook Live show, and that's about the only way that you can think he's not going to be able to get it done. So this is going to be something that more than likely builds a storyline coming out of WrestleMania, or maybe, they become tag champions and they just start beating the hell out of each other. Or it's going to be a lot like WCW when I believe Rick Steiner held the belt, held the tag team champions as a singles guy once and just was filling people in out of the blue to be his tag partner. Or like when Giant and Sting broke up and then they had a match for the tag titles and Big Show ended up winning them. So we'll see what goes down at WrestleMania with this one. Hey, what is up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today as we are sitting here getting ready for softball practice. I might be going out a little bit on a limb today because I'm making this video as Monday Night Raw is going on tonight, and maybe the question will be answered, but honestly going into WrestleMania 34, the most asked question at this time is who is Braun Strowman's mystery tag team partner going to be? As of right now, probably the most strongest rumor going around is that it is going to be Rey Mysterio. I believe that Rey Mysterio really was in WWE's plans to bring him back a few weeks ago, but at an indie show a few weeks ago, Rey Mysterio injured his bicep, where he has a full tear on his bicep. He did go through and have an interview with WWE. I think in there they talked about future plans once he was able to be healed. I think they talked about future plans with merchandising. You know, WWE isn't really big on pumping out merchandise for people that are wrestling in other organizations. And as of right now, Rey Mysterio, I don't believe there's a contract signed, but there is a handshake promise deal that Rey Mysterio wants to wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He wants to wrestle one more match against some guys over there, and sort of live out how his career started, and see where it can go from there. He appeared at the Southern California New Japan Pro Wrestling show. He promised that he wanted to come back. He wants to wrestle a match against Jushin Thunder Liger. I don't think that is going to interrupt WWE's plans as of much, but Rey Mysterio coming back at the Royal Rumble this year, it honestly was a real big deal. I was a lot like a lot of people. You know, Rey Mysterio's music started to play, he started to run down the ramp, and I had that sort of weird, it took a moment to mark out moment. I don't know if I just took it for granted, or I didn't believe that it was really Rey Mysterio, or I just was in shock. But honestly, I probably didn't start like really going bananas until Mysterio was about halfway down the ramp, and I had heard the booyaka booyaka go off. I don't think that Mysterio is going to wrestle at WrestleMania. I don't think he's going to be a part of it. As of right now, with that bicep tear, he's not getting surgery on it. He is going to rehab it. But for him to push it just to get to WrestleMania, it really could mess up a lot of his future plans when he can just sit out just a little bit longer and come back pretty much 100% healthy, and pick up a lot of those merchandising dates that are out there for him wrestling on indie shows. So as of right now, I don't know who Braun Strowman's mystery partner is going to be. It really honestly could be just about anybody at this time. It could even be like a guy like Chris Jericho, who's really been sitting on the sideline. He hasn't done anything with New Japan in a while, and he's a big name that really could come back. It could be Mark Henry, the Hall of Famer. It could be a comedy guy. It could be Alexa Bliss. She's already wrestling a championship match. Maybe it happens early enough in the night and she loses her title that she wants to come back and win another one. And they can sort of play off of that whole romantic angle that they started with the Mixed Match Challenge. So we still got lots of questions, and Rey Mysterio is out there. So there's going to be lots of people popping up in the next couple of days, especially with all the legends and all of the wrestlers that'll be appearing over at the WrestleCon, Wrestle Reunion, and all the other indie shows that are going to be going around from there. So we'll see what's going down with Braun Strowman versus The Bar at WrestleMania soon. Hey, what is up everybody? This is Stephen Breach coming to you here with a video on the 2018 class of WWE Hall of Famers that are going to be going into the Hall of Fame. I know that this year, it might have been last year, they ended up doing a schedule change, and because I'm not going to WrestleMania and don't have to worry about it anymore, I know that the Hall of Fame is no longer sort of like the go-home event before WrestleMania. It's no longer on Saturday nights. Now I think it's either held on Thursdays or Fridays. I'm not quite sure when they give sort of that main event stage to NXT before WrestleMania, I believe. But this year's class, guys, isn't really knocking it out of the park. I can honestly tell you that this is not the worst group of names I've ever seen go into the Hall of Fame, but I honestly can tell you that this is not a Hall of Fame ticket that I would be really dying to be able to get. This year's Hall of Fame class is being led by Goldberg, definitely one of the biggest stars in the business. I think that Goldberg coming back and having that last little run with the matches against Brock Lesnar last year, as well as the match against Kevin Owens, winning the WWE Universal Championship, was a great exclamation point on his career. It was definitely a rumor that was talked about with him returning to wrestling to be able to show his kids the reason why he's famous, the reason why he's rich, the reason why he has his own action figure, and why people come up to him on an everyday occurrence and sort of show him what he did in his past. Without that, I'm not really quite sure that Goldberg, to me, is the surefire main event Hall of Famer, like the guy that basically his name goes on the ticket and everybody gives the credit to the Hall of Fame class. But I don't really want to knock Goldberg too much, because in my mind, I think he is a surefire Hall of Famer, as well as the Dudley boys are themselves. The Dudleys, of course, wrestled for ECW before they came to WWE, and then once they left, really led TNA to having a really good tag team division over there as well. I know that, even though Jarrett's going into the Hall of Fame, I don't think that really what you do in TNA helps your status of going in. But to me, honestly, there was a time that TNA really had a better tag team division than WWE really did themselves. And, they had young guys, they had old experienced guys that had wrestled for, WCW as well as WWE, like New Age Outlaws, that really blended everything together with teams like, the Motor City Machine Guns, and just made a really, really fun time to be there. Of course, the Dudley Boys would split and go to different directions, where Bully Ray would become one of the biggest heels in the business, where he would main event Bound for Glory, going up against AJ Styles, and probably one of the last big TNA pay-per-views that they would ever run. Go ahead, fight me on that. I dare you. The Dudleys, they won every belt in the world. There honestly was the tag team division. They never wrestled for WCW because of the invasion. They were able to say that they won it. It's sort of cheap the way they say they did it, but a win's a win. They got their picture with the belt. They got video of it, so it is what it is. From there we go to Ivory. Ivory, to me, definitely isn't one of the best women to go in to the Hall of Fame. Definitely Chyna would have to be a surefire #1 Hall of Famer. I've been debating making like a top 5 people that are not in the Hall of Fame video. I need to make that honestly sooner than later if I get a chance before the Hall of Fame. I think I'll do that because I've been putting that off for a long time. Maybe the resurgence of Glow is the reason why Ivory is going to be going into the Hall of Fame. She was a really good wrestler. She basically came from the Hollywood side of wrestling to being in wrestling, and then actually became an actual WWE wrestler. She blended in and became a really good wrestler, having really good matches, as well as finding a way to blend into commentary and extending her career in WWF, hosting shows like Livewire. And I'm not sure, it wasn't Wrestling Challenge, but one of those sort of USA shows, and that's sort of why they extended out of there. Jeff Jarrett going in, had a really good career in the wrestling business. This is a guy who's a member of the Bullet Club, as well as led his own wrestling company. Out of the ashes of WCW, that was looked at as some sort of a competition to WWE. I can honestly tell you that during the time of Kurt Angle jumping and having the matches against Samoa Joe, I believe that if you split the Monday Night Raw and SmackDown divisions and basically didn't look at as WWE having one locker room, you put the TNA locker room against Raw or SmackDown, I honestly think that TNA had a better roster than both of those shows. I think that definitely if you put those shows together, they would knock TNA out of the park. But definitely I think that TNA for a while was running a better show than Raw and or SmackDown at that time. Jeff Jarrett, this guy that just kept plugging along, definitely one of the things that is going to be remembered in his career more than anything else is him being a guy that stood up to Vince McMahon and basically told him that he wasn't going to wrestle the match against Chyna if he did not get his money in advance. Of course, the money in advance that he's asked for is not to lose the match to Chyna, but he basically just wanted to make sure that he was to get all the money that was owed to him, whether that was money for pay-per-view buys and or t-shirts, merchandise. He basically just wanted all of his money up front to be able to leave. But Jeff Jarrett, to me, is always going to be a guy that was remembered as a guy that in the matter of like 3 years, jumped from WWE to WCW back and forth, back and forth. He never was a surefire main event guy, but definitely was one of those guys that really filled in the show, especially during that In Your House era, where he was a really good Intercontinental Champion as well as a really good character. I think that a lot of people right now are riding high on him because of the Be My Baby Tonight, which was, of course, made famous by Conrad and Bruce Pritchard. On the What Happened When show. But that's something to wrestle. What Happened When is the Tony show. But I think it's really cool that he's going to be going in. I never thought that it was going to happen, especially with how soon it is that he was just involved in TNA. And who knows? I mean, TNA is looking for somebody to sell to right now. Jarrett might go into the Hall of Fame and in a matter of no time owns the company again and leading the charge against WWE. Hillbilly Jim, going to be going in, one of the greatest wrestling characters of all time as a part of the Rock and Wrestling thing. Didn't really have a long career. Can't really think of any big matches that he was ever in except for that minis match at WrestleMania 3. Mark Henry going in, to me, is a real big surprise because of the fact that he just was wrestling for WWE, it seems like. I'm pretty sure he was at WrestleMania 32 and he wrestled in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I don't want to knock this guy too much because he really did have a really good career. But to me, going in to the WrestleMania Hall of Fame within a year of your retirement, that should be saved for guys like Shawn Michaels, saved for guys like Edge, that, you know, were some of the best of their time. Everybody else is sort of be waiting on the sideline. Hopefully they'll get that call. I know that Henry is still going to be doing work with the company, but might not be wrestling matches unless they bring him back for that legend spot on Monday Night Raw or on sporadic pay-per-view somewhere along the way when they need somebody to wrestle against Coachman or something like that. But I don't know. And then from there we go to Kid Rock. This one's a real big surprise to me. Of course, he did have the theme song to WrestleMania. Shoot, which one did he have? I know he has the one to this year. With New Orleans, he had it for 30. He sang the Stacy Keibler theme. He sang the Undertaker theme. I don't know what Fred Durst is up to. I know he pissed a lot of people off when he did the whole thing. At SummerSlam when he flipped off the camera and Vince had to apologize to some sponsors and things like that. But it's not like he knew he was going to be on live TV when he did that. But the theme song to WrestleMania 17, the song that they used for The Rock versus Austin, and, you know, just one more fight thing. To me, I'd put them in before I put Kid Rock. And especially when you're looking at something for the celebrity wing, I put Muhammad Ali in before I put anybody else in. So that's what's going to be going down with WrestleMania. I'm going to add this into the WrestleMania full show. And hope we'll see what goes down at WrestleMania. It'd be nice to see all these guys have their moment of stepping out on their stage and sort of accepting that award. I'm not 100% sure if it's on Friday, if I'm going to watch the Hall of Fame or not, but we'll see what happens on the road to WrestleMania. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. WrestleMania is going to be Rusev Day. The other day, I had a chance to make some WrestleMania videos updating some of the matches that were named, but the one that slipped by was on Tuesday. Rusev was added to the Triple Threat United States Championship match for WrestleMania 34. I think it's really cool that Rusev has got himself over to where he is one of the most popular guys in the WWE, and I was just thinking how this guy basically, he came onto the scene. He had the match at WrestleMania 31 against John Cena. WrestleMania 32, he would find himself in that, the group of guys. It was him, Sheamus, Wade Barrett, Alberto Del Rio, the League of Nations or something like that, where they had the match against New Day, where it was not a tag team titles match because all three guys were in there. Last year at WrestleMania, I think he ended up in that, Battle Royal. And I thought if he ended up in that Battle Royal again, he would sort of be slipping off into that land of never getting back onto the main card after, coming on, having a match at John Cena, even though wasn't one of the best matches of WrestleMania 31, much like, Bray Wyatt, who had the match at WrestleMania 30, wasn't one of the best matches. It's still going to remember that you had a match against John Cena, at WrestleMania. So I'm really cheering for Rusev. This one was already a hard one to pick because of the fact this is going to be Randy Orton going into WrestleMania as the United States Champion. To me, I think that this was a little bit of a tip of the cap to Orton, like a little bit of a we don't really have anything for you right now, so we're going to let you win the United States Championship, because that to me came as a little bit in the middle of nowhere for him to win the title at Fastlane. It didn't look like he was even really wanting to have a match with Bobby Roode. He just sort of got named the #1 contender out of the middle of nowhere. Even though the fact that it was Jinder Mahal that was really the one asking for a match at Fastlane. He's the one who wanted to have it. So now we have a little bit more of a balanced match. We've got Rusev, we've got Jinder Mahal, we've got Randy Orton, and we've got Bobby Roode. This already was a hard match to pick, but I think as of right now, Rusev to me is the odds-out favorite to win, which would be a good feather in this guy's hat to be able to pull off, winning a championship at WrestleMania. It's going to be that WrestleMania moment that he's going to be able to remember for a long time. I'm pretty sure this would be Bobby Roode's first WrestleMania. I can't honestly remember if he was on the card last year or not, or if he was down in NXT. Orton, a guy who's going to be around for a while. I don't see this guy leaving, but now that WWE is talking about putting more guys on sort of more lenient schedules, I can really see Orton benefiting off of that, because the last match that I think that really mattered that Orton was in was possibly that SummerSlam match against Brock Lesnar, where he just got, you know, totally dismantled and just beaten up and bruised by Brock. You know, this would be I'm not going to say that this is going to be a great match, but they should find a way to get this in there. You know, the only reason why I wouldn't be saying that this is, you know, guaranteed pre-show is the fact that Randy Orton is in the match, but look for Rusev to pull this one out. I think it's going to be going down at Mania. First match that was named for WrestleMania 34 on Monday Night Raw is going to be the Intercontinental three-way. It's going to be The Miz defending against Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Finn Balor and Seth Rollins are two guys that have really sort of tied themselves together. Both guys are former champions and leaders of the Monday Night Raw locker room, as well as being two of the forefront future stars at WWE that are going to be the true main eventers that push this company to whatever heights that they believe that it's going to be at. The way the stars aligned this year, there are no main events for Finn Balor or Seth Rollins. In my opinion, I'm a bigger fan of Finn Balor than I am of Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was an awesome heel when he had that first championship run after WrestleMania 31. And he was one of those guys that I honestly at the time really hated. And it took until his injury when he left for me to really realize how much I might hate the character, and I might hate all of the disqualification finishes that came along with it, but I really missed the character, and I really liked his in-ring work, and I thought that he really was a good worker, even though they were giving him bad finishes along the way. Finn Balor is a guy that I fell in love with. I bought the hype on him coming to NXT, a lot like when Daniel Bryan debuted on the first season of NXT with Chris Jericho, where they had the match on the opening night. Everybody talking about how great of a worker he was, and I really was like, well, if everybody loves this guy so much, I want to see why they love him so I can love him as well, because people are saying how good this guy was when he worked in Japan, how good this guy was when he worked at Ring of Honor, and I went out and I did the work, and I found you know, DVDs of his best ofs matches that he'd had, and I made sure I watched those to be able to be up on how big of a fan I was with him. And you know, that's the same way I was with Finn Balor. When he was coming to NXT, I wanted to see what the buzz was. And, of course, he made that first entrance on his first NXT TakeOver, coming out as the Demon. And, I mean, that was bigger and better than almost anything I ever thought that they were going to do with this guy. He became NXT champion, and it seemed like he honestly held the belt a little bit too long, to the point where people were ever wondering if he was ever going to make the main roster. When he was promoted to the main roster, they gave him the belt smack dab right off the bat. And, you know, he had the injury, took it out of action. And I understand when some guys come back from injury, they wonder if this guy has the injury bug, and can they push this guy, because you have to wonder when the next injury is coming. I know that when they did the Raw 25 from the Hammerstein, and they had the whole Balor Club and DX meeting inside of the ring, and Triple H brought Finn Balor forefront and basically was saying, this is my guy. You know, maybe we have to wait to the point of when Triple H takes over, but I'm still that guy right now who's just basically saying, I want to see it now. So being able to see Balor and Rollins, you know, have their matches on Monday Night Raw that led up to the Elimination Chamber, seeing them battle in the Elimination Chamber, even though that match wasn't really based on them, and that story was about how good Braun Strowman is and how, you know, Roman Reigns is able to overcome the odds to setting up the main event of WrestleMania this year. And you know, both of those guys were able to be in the chamber, be believable, to the point where you had to have that question mark in your back of your mind. Like, there was people who knew that Roman was going to win it, but you can make a claim, even if it is only a 1% chance, that, you know, WWE would change their mind and listen to the fans, and Rollins and Finn Balor had to be a pick of somebody that you're going to be there. I know that I've talked about these two guys for a long period of time, and I'm forgetting to talk about the Intercontinental Champion, The Miz. The Miz is the guy, man. He is good. I don't care if you talk crap about this guy's ring work. I don't care if you talk crap about, you know, the way he runs his mouth. I believe that The Miz is right up there in the category with being one of the best guys. You can talk about the fact that Rolling Stone named him the best wrestler of 2017, and he loves to talk about that, and he'll rub that in your face all day long. But I really believe he has the stuff to back it up. And, you know, he had his time, you know, back in 2011 when he was champion, and, you know, he got the main event WrestleMania, even though he was sort of like the asterisk of the match. Even though it was The Miz against John Cena, that match was basically trying to tell the story setting up WrestleMania 28 with Cena versus The Rock. And it wasn't time to have that match. You had to build it and make people wait that year to make WrestleMania 28 as big as it was. You know, since then, you know, when it comes to WrestleMania, The Miz has wrestled on the pre-show. The Miz has wrestled in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He's wrestled on the pre-show. He's been a member of a tag team. Seeing The Miz be able to have, well, it's a triple threat, but have a singles match where the spotlight is going to be on him coming down to the ring as champion, as a Miz fan, I believe is awesome. Awesome. And I think this is going to be really, really cool for all the parties that are involved here. So I'm really looking forward to this one. When it comes down to it, I think I have to be a homer. I have to pick my guy and tell you that I'm going to be rooting for Finn Balor. And as much as I state the case that this guy needs a push and he needs to be champion, you know, you also have to wonder if this match is even going to happen as a three-way, with The Miz expecting his first baby with Maurice. I believe the due date is either a day or maybe 2 days after WrestleMania. Baby could come early. Baby could have complications, this, that, or the other. So at least with them having a three-way, it sets up the piece that if Miz has to be absent, we could still have Balor versus Rollins, and you don't have to pull everybody off of WrestleMania. So maybe that is pretty smart of them to do that. But as a fan of all three guys, I think I'm crazy for saying this, and I think it might not happen, and my prediction might change. But as of right now, I think I'm actually rooting for The Miz to win this match and walk out with that championship belt to show how awesome this guy really is. All right, last month on Fastlane, we were supposed to get the sort of end-all, be-all of New Day versus Usos, and before the match was even supposed to take off, the Bludgeon Brothers came down and attacked the New Day, sort of throwing Xavier Woods in the air, making him crash down on the steel steps, ending the match before it even got started. But this year at WrestleMania, the Bludgeon Brothers are going to be interrupting the tag match once again, this time making it a three-way dance. When talking about New Day versus the Usos, that is always going to be two of the top teams in the WWE that I think could really know each other well. I'm sure they've worked house shows, you know, around the loop, time after time. They fought on pay-per-view. They've had a Hell in the Cell match. They've done just about everything that there is possible to do in the world of tag team wrestling. I think if that was a singles match, this would be directly right on to the card. But now they're going to be going up against each other, adding the Bludgeon Brothers into there. On SmackDown last week, we had all 5 members of the Usos and the New Day who basically had a chance to stand up to the Bludgeon Brothers, but instead sort of sleeked away. In my mind, I've only seen the Bludgeon Brothers wrestle a couple of matches, and these were matches against the lower, least tier guys on SmackDown in the tag team division. I think they beat the Ascension. I think they beat, you know, Fandango and Tyler Breeze. They really haven't beat anybody to put that in that top tier of being in the tag team title thing. It's sort of like, you know, how they have Nia Jax always wrestling these short, jobber matches on Monday Night Raw. That's sort of what they've been doing with these guys on SmackDown. They come out there, they look pretty big and mean. I think that, in this day of age of seeing people get repackaged and brought back up onto the main roster and acting like these guys are different guys that we saw when they were in the Wyatts is honestly really dumb, especially when the fact that Luke Harper and Eric Rowan were never released from WWE and maybe went to go wrestle, over in the UK or even go wrestle for TNA or anything. Like, there was no gap. All of a sudden, these guys just weren't on TV. There was no sort of vignette to sort of explain, how these guys got these mallets, started dressing different. It's just the same dudes with different names. And that stuff doesn't really take place in this day and age of wrestling, especially with the amount of smart fans they have out there. Not going to fall for this. I'm guessing that they're putting this together is that we're supposed to fear the Bludgeon Brothers, that many people think that they're supposed to just walk into WrestleMania, get this title win, and then from there be defending the titles, against the New Day and against the Usos in singles matches. I'm really hoping the fact that that doesn't happen. I understand that, SmackDown does have a lot of tag teams, even though the fact that, like, the Hype Bros broke up a few months back. You still got the Ascension, you still got Fandango and Tyler Breeze. I haven't seen not Carlito, but I haven't seen the Shining Stars. I think they got switched over to SmackDown, but I haven't seen them in a long time. But, I don't want to see them fall to the bottom of the roster where we never see them again. But I don't really want them to get the win at WrestleMania. I don't care if the Usos win. I don't care if the New Day wins. But want to see good tag team matches with teams that actually really matter. Nothing, negative against Rowan and Harper. I think Harper's a really good singles wrestler. But as a tag team, these guys I don't think really cut it to be at the top of the SmackDown tag team division. So put your money on the Usos, maybe put your money on the New Day. Split it down the middle, one of those guys get the win. I was really rooting for this match, and with Charlotte being the face of SmackDown's women's division, as well as Asuka being one of the rising stars of Monday Night Raw, I didn't really think that they were going to pull off the switch. It looked like Asuka was going into a program with Raw's women's champion Alexa Bliss, where basically Asuka was going to pick to go after the Raw Championship. And in my mind, I was saying Charlotte versus Asuka is a match that I think that a lot of wrestling fans are going to want to see. Charlotte Flair is possibly the best women's wrestler in WWE, in my opinion. I understand that Asuka, she does have a big group of fans, and she does really wrestle a real physical style with her punches and her kicks. I don't think that really appeals to everyone. For people to think that maybe I am going towards Charlotte and thinking that she's one of the best women's wrestlers in WWE, go back and watch when she first debuted and she was coming up. I really was not on the Charlotte train. And I believe at that time I was really saying that Becky Lynch was going to be the face of the women's division, even though Charlotte was getting the push out of the gate. I felt that there would be a time when Becky and Charlotte would split, and Becky would be the one that would start beating Charlotte, sort of like the come from behind, that Charlotte was getting the push out of the gate because of the Flair connection. And I've always really thought that Becky was going to be the best, and that's why I think she's got a really good shot to win that Fabulous Moolah Memorial Battle Royal this year. But this year at WrestleMania, this is going to be a really big match. I know that they're going to be pushing, the heritage of Flair and her, being a big part of WrestleMania, with her coming out at WrestleMania 32, winning that three-way with Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. This is Asuka's first WrestleMania. Asuka, of course, shot through NXT. She came up to the main roster being undefeated and hasn't lost a match since being called up to the main roster. I understand that she's surpassed Goldberg's streak of matches, and she's going to be put to the test. I know that when a lot of people come up from NXT, all of a sudden they hit the ground running on the main roster and they're undefeated, and then they start pulling off the undefeated streak, sort of gimmick on TV, and then they get to the point of like, well, how are we going to beat this guy? And then once we beat him, then what do we do with him after that? And that's sort of like when people get lost in the shuffle. If you think about guys like Bo Dallas or Adam Rose, That just was the path that they took with people from NXT, because that was the only way that they could think to bring them up. Asuka, I believe, is something special. Definitely, she has connected with NXT fans as well as WWE fans, and sort of shown off a style of wrestling that we've never seen in WWE before. I think you have to be a sucker to not pick Asuka to win this match. I think that they've been waiting for her to get a championship match in WWE until WrestleMania, for her to get a WrestleMania moment. But at the same time, it's hard to pick against Charlotte. I understand we're a while removed from her undefeated streak on pay-per-view. I believe that ended Fastlane last year before WrestleMania. So that's not really the reason why I'm picking her, but this is sort of a hard match to pick. I want to see how the storyline builds for this. I'm sort of glad that Asuka is going to be moving to SmackDown for this storyline, but at the same time, it looks like she's going to be staying on Monday Night Raw, which is a little bit weird. But then, you know, they did the shakeup after WrestleMania with the roster, so maybe that's just when they're going to flip her over, or maybe they're going to wait until she wins the championship at WrestleMania, and that just means that the SmackDown championship stays, or the SmackDown champion will stay with SmackDown, and that's how she ends up jumping over. So there's ways to pay this off, but they didn't want to end the storyline of Asuka versus Alexa Bliss. I think we are going to see that match in some way before WrestleMania, even if it is a non-title match, because it really wouldn't make sense for her to be chasing after Charlotte at the same time having a championship match, having a chance to win the belt on Raw. But then again, maybe it's champion versus champion, and they could go with that at WrestleMania. We'll see. It's a hard one to pick, but as of right now, I'm picking Asuka to win this one. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're talking about the possibility of a Money in the Bank cash-in at WrestleMania 34. Carmella has been carrying around that Money in the Bank briefcase since early this summer, and the Money in the Bank briefcase was brought up. Basically, it was created for people to main event WrestleMania, which was always sort of the way the contract was stated, that basically they would be able to put the contract on the line, be able to be in the main event of WrestleMania, and sort of add themselves to being one of the main event stars of WWE. Carmella won the Money in the Bank briefcase back in, I believe, July, then basically had it stripped for her, and then had to re-win it again in a Money in the Bank match on SmackDown. Since then, we've seen a few possibilities of her trying to cash in the briefcase, only to, basically for her to put the brakes on, noticing that it wasn't going to happen. One of my favorite attempts was her running down and trying to cash in during the Survivor Series SmackDown versus Raw Women's Tag match. There's a lot of possibilities on how this could really work. There's 2 Women's Championship matches, and although Carmella is a SmackDown wrestler and the Money in the Bank was won on a SmackDown branded pay-per-view, I think that they would bend the rules basically for Carmella to be able to cash in anywhere. Obviously, the biggest match for the women's division is going to be Asuka versus Charlotte. Asuka is going to be coming into that match being undefeated. She has not lost a match yet in WWE, and it looks like that is where she is going to be winning the championship. For her to win the championship and have that moment where she is on the Goldberg streak, obviously you have to beat the streak someday down the road. It's not like Asuka is going to go into the Hall of Fame someday, retire from WWE, and she is still unbeatable. Someday there has to be a way to do it, and the way that they do it has to be able to be better than when Goldberg lost his streak in WCW, basically, where Scott Hall ran in with the stun gun and then Kevin Nash won the match. It was a big screw job, and although it did get some heat, it's easy to sort of say that Goldberg never really got to the heights that he was when he was undefeated. Obviously, you have to sort of create a star when you sort of take away a star's undefeated streak to be able to make it look good that they're actually going somewhere with this decision. I believe that Asuka is going to defeat Charlotte, and I think that having the Money in the Bank cashed in on Asuka would be a good way. I honestly think that this Money in the Bank cash-in would come in the Monday Night Raw match, which would be Nia Jax going up against Alexa Bliss. In this, I believe it would be pretty cool that if Alexa Bliss found some miracle way to beat Nia Jax, although Nia Jax put a pummeling on her during the whole match, then Carmella would come in, cash in on Asuka, that then basically, I'm sorry, I messed it up. Where Nia Jax would be able to put a pummeling on Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss would be able to come out as the winner of the match. Carmella would come down after the beating from Nia, and Carmella would cash in and she would beat Alexa Bliss. This way, when everything is said and done, Carmella would take what is now the Raw Women's Championship to SmackDown, while Alexa Bliss, Asuka, too many A's in this match, I apologize. Asuka would take the SmackDown's Women's Championship after beating Charlotte, and she would bring that to Monday Night Raw, and then we would have a balance of 2 women's champions on 2 shows. So I think I screwed that up with the Asuka and Alexa Bliss getting mixed up in my head 1,000 times, but we might be seeing the Money in the Bank cashed in at WrestleMania. Last night on SmackDown, we got the answer to the biggest question for this year's WrestleMania. After Daniel Bryan being cleared by WWE, you know they would want to use him in the biggest possible way, and we all wanted to know how he would return to WWE. Last week, I made a video basically saying that I thought it was going to be Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon teaming up against Owens and Zayn in some sort of a match where they would fight for Zayn and Owens to have jobs back on the WWE's main roster. That match ended up coming true last night. Daniel Bryan came to the ring. He challenged Owens and Zayn to have the match. They were not used on SmackDown because of the storyline of them being fired. Sami Zayn had to actually answer the challenge via a tweet. He is still traveling with the SmackDown brand. They use them on the SmackDown shows to do sort of invasions of the main event, but don't actually use them in matches where it sort of follows along with the storyline, that it just looks like the wrestlers are actually traveling, breaking up the house shows. That way people keep on remembering them what is going on. WWE released a story on Shane McMahon being hospitalized this week. The story came down to basically Shane McMahon traveled out of the country while on vacation. He came down with an infection, which they're pointing fingers to being diverticulitis. One of the things that ended Brock Lesnar's career in UFC were basically the insides of your stomach start eating each other, I guess you can sort of say, where you have holes in your stomach. But they did not change plans on the match. I was sort of digging through my mind on who they could use as a tag team partner for Daniel Bryan. The only person that I really could think of that has a history with Owens and Zayn, as well as being with Daniel Bryan, was Roderick Strong, who I think is wrestling on the 205 Live brand right now, but is appearing on NXT here and there along the way. But I thought maybe they would play off of their connection with wrestling each other in PWG, as wrestling in Ring of Honor and things like that. But it looks like they're not going to go that direction. Shane is going to be there. He doesn't really have to have a real big physical role in this match because of it being a tag team match, sort of, traditional style, I guess you can say, not tornado or anything like that, or no DQ. I think we all know that Shane McMahon is going to take it to the extreme whenever he can. So I think that even with him battling this infection in his body, I could see him taking that extreme bump that he always takes. I don't know if he does this for his father's love or for the fans' interest, or just his love of wrestling as well as WWE. Vince said that he always wanted to be a wrestler, but his father never would let him do it. That's why he waited so long in his career before actually wrestling that match against Stone Cold, and matches here or there along the way. But I don't know. I can't think of a Shane match where he never went all the way and did everything he could. So we'll see what goes down at WrestleMania. I'd be really surprised if Bryan and Shane didn't win. But then again, Owens and Zayn have to get a win in their match. So is there anybody who's disgruntled on the SmackDown brand who might join, sort of the Owens and Zayn group?
you'd be crazy to wonder, but I haven't seen Jericho used on New Japan shows in a while, so maybe he's not wrestling for them anymore. I know that he is out doing concerts, but he's been able to work his wrestling career around concert tour dates before, so maybe it's not crazy that Owens and Jericho become best friends again, and maybe sort of build some angle of them kicking out Sami Zayn, and that's how you give Sami Zayn that boost to being that main event guy down the line. Something has to happen. I don't, with that sort of, them not being fired anymore, that stipulation means that Owens and Zayn has to win in my mind, unless they just go to SmackDown and just do the same match again and just have them get the win at WrestleMania, but then all of a sudden Owens and Zayn get the win on SmackDown, where people won't remember it as much because of the fact it didn't happen at WrestleMania 10 years down the road. But Bryan will always have that moment that they can play in the videos of him fighting that fight to have his comeback, and then once he finally gets back, winning at WrestleMania, and then we can see what they build to down the road with him not really being in that GM role of SmackDown anymore. So that's another storyline, is who's going to take over as the GM of SmackDown. Maybe somebody's going to get put in place next week and they turn heel and end up helping out Owens and Zayn. So there's a lot that could happen in the next few days. Or maybe just they put somebody in control in SmackDown on Tuesday and they give the jobs back to Owen and Zayn because he feels that they're valuable parts of the roster and he doesn't want to be fighting a losing battle against these guys. So a few things they could do. I really don't see Shane and Bryan losing. But then again, I don't really pick Shane to win matches that much, for the same reason that I don't pick Vince to win matches or even Triple H to win matches, because their job is to get other guys over. I can't really think of a match that Shane's won in his career that meant anything. So we'll see what goes down. Peace out, everybody.
All right, the next match is really special to WrestleMania. It is definitely going to be one of the main drawing attractions that brings wrestling fans from past and present together to be watching the WWE Network. There's definitely going to be a lot of talk from, I guess you can say, the so-called UFC fans who used to watch wrestling to see how Ronda Rousey is going to do in the ring and being a part of the spectacle that is WrestleMania. I think that Ronda Rousey coming to WWE is going to be the biggest thing that could bring in those fringe wrestling fans to come back, even if it is for only one night, to see what they're missing. Ronda Rousey at this time right now is probably not going to be the best wrestler. She definitely is not the best talker when it comes to setting up promos, to setting up her matches. But I think that her drawing power from being able to beat people in UFC and have matches that lasted, less than a minute and being able to knock somebody out in one punch is what's going to bring it to the table. Definitely the armbar is something that we've been looking forward to seeing in a WWE ring since WrestleMania 31, when she jumped the barricade with The Rock and was able to hip toss on Triple H and throw Stephanie as well. This is a match that came together over the last period of a year. Definitely for the last while, we've been wondering how Kurt Angle was going to come back to WWE. It looked like when Angle signed his deal to come back to WWE to be put into the WWE Hall of Fame, it was just going to be as sort of a I guess you can say an out-of-the-ring performer, with him being the GM of Monday Night Raw, and having sort of like that feel-good guy that is able to deliver a promo, have good, be able to be believable in the role that, even though he's not still the guy that he once was, if stuff did get frisky in the ring, he would be able to handle himself. And I think that's what Triple H is. I apologize, that is what Kurt Angle is in the role of GM, especially being able to be somebody who's going to stand up to Triple H and Stephanie and not just get walked over in a role like, Teddy Long did when he was in commissioner of SmackDown back in the day. You know, Kurt Angle came back at TLC. He wrestled in that match replacing Roman Reigns, and it sort of was like a little bit of a Band-Aid sticker just to be there. He was a part of the Monday Night Raw team. At Survivor Series, being the captain of a team, he had to go out there and make sure that Team Raw was able to get the win. And even though him and Triple H didn't see eye to eye, it took until now for them to really pay off on that storyline of the Survivor Series. In the opening match, or in the opening video of my full show preview, I talked about the fact that Survivor Series to me was probably the most I've been hyped for a wrestling show in quite a while. And to me, it sort of was a little bit of a letdown, and it led to my decision of basically not to go to WrestleMania this year. It seemed like it got really hyped up, and at the end, it was sort of a letdown with the Triple H show. Triple H is always going to be one of my favorite guys. I always look forward to his matches at WrestleMania. I can honestly tell you the match against Rollins last year wasn't the best match that I've ever seen, but, you know, like the match against Daniel Bryan, the match against at Sting, even though it wasn't the best wrestling match of all time, was really, really entertaining. And it's one of those matches that I know is going to be on every WrestleMania card. Even if it looks like he's not going to be getting the win, it's something that I really, really look forward to. It's easy to see, you know, when talking about this match, you know, Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey are going to get the win. This is going to be the kickoff of Ronda Rousey actually being a competitor in WWE. You know, WWE is really talking about the fact that Ronda Rousey is going to be a part of the main roster. She's going to be a little bit different. For the most part, she wants to be treated like she is, you know, Charlotte or Bayley or Sasha Banks. You know, she's not going to be a part of every pay-per-view. And that's a little bit of trying to not make the spectacle that is Ronda Rousey, you know, dry up. You know, Brock Lesnar is the guy that, you know, comes in for special pay-per-views. You know, he's going to be part of WrestleMania. You know, he's going to be a part of Survivor Series, SummerSlam. But, you know, he's not on every Monday Night Raw to build up to that. So I'm not sure when Ronda's, you know, storyline is going to end, and she's going to take a leave of absence, and she won't be you know, traveling to Monday Night Raw and doing TVs and things like that. But it is cool to see that Ronda is committed to WWE to the point where she's not going to take television off. And she is going to be a part of WWE to make sure that, you know, they're able to draw numbers, especially in this very important time when WWE is maybe trying to lure in getting a new television deal with Fox. That, you know, they still have to support numbers to see if maybe they're not able to go to Fox, if they can stay with USA, and how much USA is going to pay. And Ronda, as of right now, is probably the biggest star that they have, being bigger than John Cena, and definitely, I think, being more of a draw than Brock Lesnar is. Brock, you know, did a house show last week where he wrestled in Chicago. The match was against Kane. It lasted less than a minute, and the fans were very easy to understand that they were upset that they didn't get their money's worth. That they felt Brock should have been out there longer, even though it was a match against Kane and everybody knew that he was going to win. You know, maybe he should have, you know, suplexed him around a little bit more than he did. Maybe, you know, sell a little bit, act like Kane was going to be beaten on him. But less than a minute doesn't really make much sense. And, you know, that's always been my argument against why I think WWE is a better value when you're looking at pay-per-view dollars. Going against UFC, because although it is really cool to see, you know, Ronda Rousey slap the armbar on somebody and make him tap out in, you know, 15, 16 seconds, but then when you have to step back to the table when that bill comes from the cable company, and you're like, man, I just paid $60 for 14 seconds of action, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I know that they're going to drop a really good match where Ronda Rousey's able to get the best of Stephanie, and I'm sure that, you know, Triple H will be putting a beating on Kurt Angle, making it look like they're going to be able to pull out the win. But definitely Stephanie's going to be doing some tapping, and we'll have the start of Ronda Rousey's career in WWE starting off with a big W. Occasionally when I'm making these WrestleMania previews as well as other pay-per-view previews, I normally tell you what I think the best wrestling match of the night is going to be. It might not have the most, entertainment to it. It might not have the biggest stars to it, but you just know when these guys get in the ring, they are going to go. For, big fans, I guess they call it the hardcore fans of wrestling, we have seen this match once before on a big stage in Japan, on New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom. We had AJ Styles of the Bullet Club go up against Shinsuke Nakamura. This was honestly a big-time dream match for a lot of people to see these two guys get into the ring. And immediately, once it was said that these guys were jumping ship and going to WWE, we were hoping that we were going to see this on the grand stage of WrestleMania. People thought that it might happen at last year's WrestleMania, even though Nakamura was not a part of the main card yet. I'm really looking forward to this match. I think that these two guys are going to tear the house down. AJ Styles is coming in to WrestleMania as your WWE champion. Shinsuke Nakamura is coming in off of his Royal Rumble win. Definitely when you talk about Nakamura, you can say that he's had a big year since being on the main roster, but definitely since SummerSlam, he really took a step backwards in my opinion. That is when he went on his streak of losing matches to Jinder Mahal, who was the WWE champion at the time. I really thought that after Nakamura was able to beat John Cena on an episode of SmackDown, that was sort of his step forward to becoming the face of SmackDown and being I guess you can say the John Cena of the brand, now that John Cena wasn't going to be around as much. I definitely feel that Nakamura is a big part of WWE, but I know that there's lots of things out there about AJ maybe switching with Seth Rollins. To AJ goes to Monday Night Raw, and Seth Rollins, who has been on Monday Night Raw for a while and sort of had every feud that there possibly is possible over there, sort of finding a way to freshen things up. This definitely would be a way for Nakamura to move to the front of the class and be the guy on the show. Definitely when you do babyface versus babyface, especially for a championship on the grandest stage of being WrestleMania, it's kind of hard to predict which way they're going to go. Definitely, if you're thinking about the brand split idea of maybe AJ jumping to Monday Night Raw, it's sort of really easy to see the idea of him losing this match and Nakamura becoming the champion. With the fact that Nakamura has lost championship title matches not once, not twice, but I believe 3 times, and now is getting another shot finally at WrestleMania, I think that it's his time. I think that's what they were setting the pace for, especially with them not doing some sort of a gimmick match. I don't really want to play into the whole him being Japanese thing, but I don't know what they could have done for his sort of gimmick match. Like Jinder Mahal had the Punjabi prison match where they brought back Great Khali for the Randy Orton feud, but I'm sure they could have figured out something, and especially with Jinder Mahal not really going that long with the title after finally getting out of the Nakamura feud. I think that's what the plan has to have been. I really was thinking Nakamura was going to win the Rumble months ago, and just sort of rode that out until he finally was able to do it. I definitely think that this is going to be the best match of the night, and as of right now, there really is no storyline for this match, so it's kind of hard to talk about this anymore, but I think at WrestleMania, I don't think it's going to be a knock against AJ Styles, but I think it's going to be Nakamura winning the championship, and it plays back into the WrestleMania 32 episode of WWE 24, where AJ Styles is talking about him having his first WrestleMania match against Chris Jericho, and him telling his son that even though he lost the match, he didn't lose that night, because he got to wrestle at WrestleMania, and he got to really show everybody how good he is, and I'm thinking that's what WrestleMania is going to be this year. Alright, this is going to be the big one. This is the one everybody's been talking about. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34. We all knew this was going to be the main event. We all hoped that it wasn't going to be. I thought that they would maybe change their mind and put Finn Balor in this match, sort of showing what the future of WWE is going to be. since he never really has got that push since coming back from injury 2 years ago, besides for winning the championship at SummerSlam before the injury. This has got speculation written all over it. It looks a lot like WrestleMania 31. People were rumoring that Brock Lesnar was going to leave WWE to head back to UFC. Only at WrestleMania 31, at the last minute, I know it came out the day before I left to go to San Francisco, Santa Clara, San Jose, whatever you want to call it, that Brock Lesnar was re-signing and he was going to stay in WWE and be a professional wrestler. I know that really surprised me at the time. Only last night, Dana White, who I believe was on some sort of fighting show, I don't even know what channel it was on, let the rumor split that Brock Lesnar was going to be returning to UFC. There was no date, there was no time. The only thing that we can wonder is that basically it's going to be after his suspension ends that he is under in UFC. The only thing is that I don't think that Brock is under testing right now, so I don't even think he is currently serving his 1-year suspension. During your suspension from UFC, you still have to be tested during USADA for, whenever their randomized drug tests pop up, and Brock Lesnar was not part of the testing pool. Cannot live out his suspension until that thing comes up. They made so many special rules for him coming into UFC, delaying his drug testing, and he still failed 2 drug tests, setting up that UFC 200 fight against Mark Hunt. I guess it's just they're just going to come out and tell us Roman Reigns is going to win this match. The only thing that you can wonder is maybe if, I heard this on the Dan Le Batard show from producer Mike Ryan, and I honestly thought it was genius. Basically, Dana White came out and said that maybe because Vince McMahon asked him to. You go back to WrestleMania 20. Basically, they had the match Brock Lesnar versus UFC, which WWE thought was going to be a big match. People were going to like it because it was 2 big guys, 2 big stars, former champions that were just going to go in there and beat the hell out of each other. And when the bell rang, everybody booed it like crazy. Basically, knowing that Brock was leaving, knowing that Goldberg was leaving. The fans turned on this before they even had a chance to see it. Goldberg just came out and said that basically the match isn't as bad as they did, but a lot of people think that when the fans turned on the match, the wrestlers just gave up. They didn't know what they could do to save it, so they just didn't really do a whole lot once they were in there. I don't know what to think about this match. I know that Brock has had matches basically where he just went in there and just said, let's get this over with, a lot like the Dean Ambrose WrestleMania 32 match where he didn't really want to do much. And Ambrose has said that Brock didn't really give him much to work with, and that's why that match was a stinker. WWE could always throw a surprise in, maybe adding somebody into the match. It'd be hard at this point. I mean, there's no Seth Rollins with the Money in the Bank briefcase. There's nobody able to just sort of run in and add themselves. They would have to create some sort of a storyline, or maybe just everyone in WWE turns on him, or maybe you could have like all the people the past year that have had title shots against him, Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, just sort of, just attack Brock and just sort of throw him out of WWE the way that they wish they could have. Maybe I don't know, but Roman's going to get the win. I mean, that's basically all they can do. They've told us everything that Brock is leaving. The only thing that you could sort of set up is that basically, I don't even think I finished what I was talking about with that whole WrestleMania 20 thing. But basically, the reason why they're going to turn on Brock is because Brock is leaving. And basically, if the people boo Brock, they'll have to cheer Roman. And it's the one way that Roman can get cheered. That was the thing that Mike Bryan was talking about. But I don't really even know what to say. I mean, I thought that Roman was going to beat Brock at WrestleMania for over a year. So we're just going to have to let this play out. It'll probably be the one thing at WrestleMania that people remember, and that people will hope that it's not the biggest moment of the night. I think for that, we're going to have to see what goes down with Cena and Taker. Obviously, something's going to happen, but that's probably going to be the moment that everybody takes away from WrestleMania as being the biggest thing from WrestleMania. Alright, I can honestly tell you that the rumor of this match got really heated up in December and January of this year. John Cena facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania 34, the match that the fans never thought they were going to be able to see. WWE was actually going to pull the trigger on and have us see it. To sort of set the table for everything that has happened on the road to WrestleMania, even though at this time, nothing has happened. There's no Undertaker response to sort of answer the John Cena challenges. Basically, Taker showed up at Raw 25. And then, you know, John Cena, who was trying to get his ticket for WrestleMania, he was not able to win the Royal Rumble. He was not able to win the Elimination Chamber. He was not able to add himself to the WrestleMania main event for SmackDown. From there, he's basically said that he's too big for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He doesn't think that he's going to be the guy to tag with Braun Strowman. So as of right now, he does not have a ticket to WrestleMania. He threw this challenge out, and we've seen it, you know, basically almost get answered by Kane. We've seen it where he's waiting, and we got nothing. I think we're going to get to WrestleMania. John Cena is almost going to play that he is the host of WrestleMania. He's going to portray that he is just a fan, just like everybody else. A fan who's probably going to get an entrance. A fan that's probably going to be handed a microphone. And I can see the Undertaker versus Cena segment basically going down like the Rock segment at WrestleMania 32. Maybe they don't believe that Undertaker could really go out there and have a real match at WrestleMania. Maybe they're not going to have a match, but maybe Undertaker is just going to have a moment with Cena where he says he doesn't want to fight him. He's done. And maybe, I guess it's hard to say, but it passes the torch to John Cena. Maybe that's that now Cena is going to be the full-time part-timer that wrestles every year at WrestleMania. Now that his movie career has gotten so big, you know, there was no Rock at WrestleMania 33, but Cena was there. So, you know, the long string of WrestleManias, it's probably going to go to Cena, even though Cena didn't wrestle due to injury at... What was the last WrestleMania that Cena missed? He was hurt at WrestleMania 32, but he was still part of that whole segment with Rock and the Wyatts. So, I know it's happened. I don't think he's been on every single one since 19. Maybe it is possible, because nothing's really jumping out of my mind, because it seems like he gets hurt, but he finds a way to miraculously come back each and every year. I can see Cena walking down to the ring, calling out the dead man one more time, and the dead man coming out and answering the challenge, basically because it's WrestleMania, and it's special, and it's a moment. From there, I wonder if they're going to have a match. People really want to see him come out as the American Badass, riding that bike to the ring. But if he's going to come out there and be the Undertaker that we saw at Raw 25, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But maybe it's sort of like that John Wayne Cowboy Last Dance sort of thing, that he rides the bike down there and we see the big evil. And this is the really crowning moment where it's all over and it's all done. So I think something's going to happen at WrestleMania. It's just a little sketchy why they did not name this as a match yet. Maybe it's just going to be a segment. Maybe it could be a lot of things. But it's going to be that one thing that I can honestly tell you that as a wrestling fan I gave up on. I rooted for it, but I never thought it was going to happen. And at WrestleMania, hopefully, we're going to see Cena versus Taker.